All right, Fuzz Club. We're talking about Hippie Death Cult today and their new album Helichrysum, which is out on October 20th on Heavy Psych Records. Before we get going, let's do some quick intros. Aawks, we got the whole band here tonight. What's up?
I'm Kris from Aawks.
Randy from Aawks.
It's Roberto from Aawks.
Ryan, welcome.
Thank you for having me on. Ryan from Black Throne Productions.
Cool. Eddy?
I'm Eddy from the Endless, Lords of the Opium Church, and Aawks.
You're going to run out of room here if you join any more bands.
Yeah. That's it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Ben?
Ben Riss from Lost Dutchman and Southern Gate. I just kept it simple, short, sweet, like Prince.
Cool. All right, Hippie Death Cult. So this album comes out on the 20th. When this airs, it'll be out. But we all had a chance to listen to it. Yeah, what everybody think?
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome.
It's a little different from their previous work. They are now using the all female vocals. Their bass player. They had a different vocalist on the albums prior to this, and whatever happened there. But now it's all female vocals, which I enjoyed a lot. I think that I talking to them down in Texas at Ripple Fest a little bit, and it sounded like they're super happy with the direction of the band, and it's kind of like the sound that they were always going for, and everything like that. And I think it kind of comes through on this album. It just sounds like they found like their sweet spot. And I enjoyed their music prior to this, but it was kind of exploratory. It was experimental. It was groovy. It was psychedelic. It was heavy. It was all sorts of stuff. So I thought it was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is my intro to the band. I'd heard maybe a song or two over the years, but there's so much amazing music these days. You don't always get a chance to really delve into stuff. So it was my first time listening to them in depth. And there's aspects of it that are pretty mind-blowing. I didn't realize how amazing players they are. Like musically, they're just super talented. And there were some like jaw-dropping guitar solos and some really super tight band moments, and some pretty impressive musical musicianship that really struck me on my second time listening through the album. Really, only hearing it 2 times, and I will say that that was my first kind of impression. Also, I really dug the kind of retro almost production on it. Like I feel like a lot of the highs are rolled off, which gives it almost like an analog sound. That really served the album.
Nice. Yeah, for me, since it's out yet, I wasn't able to listen to it on the airplane or anything this week when I was traveling. So I haven't listened to it a lot. I listened to it a few weeks ago, and then I listened to it today when I got home. And it's one of those albums already that you hear different things every time you listen to it. It changes every time you listen to it. And the more you listen to it, you find new things about it. And little things here and there about just different sounds and different voices that Laura uses. And just, I think every time you listen to it, you're going to find some new stuff to enjoy about it, which is cool.
Yeah. I think me and Kris were kind of chatting back and forth while at least I was on my first listen through on it. And I think at that first time I had a specific favorite song, and by the third time it was kind of just all over the place. Like you said, there's a lot of different things that you notice every playthrough.
Yeah. They were super cool about sending the Fuzz Club some video info. So they actually sent 2 different videos. I'm going to play the first one. It's a little bit more general info about the album and stuff, and the second one's more about gear and stuff. And if we want to start talking about that, I know some of you guys know what you're talking about when it comes to the gear and the pedals and all that kind of stuff. So if we go there in the conversation, I'll put that one up too, and we'll get into that a little bit. But let me play this first video from Eddy, kind of going just into inspirations and the ideas behind the album and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that'll help set the stage a little bit.
Death Cult here. Thank you for having me on to speak about our new album, Helichrysum. About the title, Helichrysum, that didn't come together until the literal final hour. The deadline was fast approaching. The mixes were just about done. The artwork was just about done. and we didn't have a title. And Laura had been throwing out all kinds of suggestions, which I was immediately rejecting, until finally suggesting Helichrysum at the last second. And we all liked the sound of it, and upon looking up some of what it symbolizes, it's a plant that symbolizes eternal love and immortality. It's known for several of its healing properties. People have been using it for all kinds of healing purposes for centuries, and it kind of seemed to correlate with a lot of the themes throughout the album, and we just decided to go with it at the last minute, and then handed the album in. As soon as we handed the album in, Laura and I had gone on a vacation to Croatia, and we got to visit a lot of the islands out there, and we kept seeing these yellow plants everywhere, and we're wondering if it was Helichrysum that we were seeing. And then finally, the last week of the vacation we got to spend on the island of Kirk, where my father was born and grew up. And as we were exploring the island, we were seeing these plants everywhere, in every direction as far as you could see. So we looked it up, and it turns out that the Helichrysum plant is native to that island and grows in abundance, and it's a protected plant there. And there's even a Helichrysum farm on that island, which we got to visit and learn about the whole history of Helichrysum and all of its healing purposes and the whole deal. And it was just a really cool experience and a really cool sort of nod from the universe that we had made a good decision. In many ways, this feels like our first, official album. Bringing Harry Silvers into the band and having Laura, singing now, really has solidified our vibe and sound and chemistry. This album, and these people working together has been very harmonious and extremely fun, and I hope that comes across through the sounds we're making. And even as far as capturing and mixing the sounds, we didn't want to alter them to sound like most modern recordings sound. We wanted it to sound like how they actually sound, which you don't see a lot of nowadays because you can manipulate things to do all kinds of things. It's tempting to do, but we wanted it to sound really like us, so we didn't do a lot of that stuff. So from all the way down, to recording, to mixing, and even mastering, we tried to keep it as analog and pure as possible. Another important thing to note about this album is not only is it the first Hippie Death Cult album to feature Laura on vocals as well as bass, but this is the first time Laura has ever sang on an album ever, or has ever worked on lyrics and melodies and the whole thing. This is her first go at the whole experience, and we couldn't be more proud of what she came up with. We wanted to give her the space that she needed to be able to come up with this stuff. Being in a real vulnerable situation, doing this for the first time, and we didn't really know how the lyrics and melodies were going to go until we were in the studio hitting record. Of course, we were super pleasantly surprised and pleased with what she'd come up with. I couldn't be more proud of her myself. I think that her voice, her lyrics, the melody, everything she's done was just incredible. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier about Harry's playing on the album. I think it complements Laura and I in the most natural and perfect way. We only had a few months together before recording the record to, solidify our parts and figure out what we were going to do once we were under the gun with, the red light on. But what we came out with, I'm really happy with. Aside from that, since the album has been done, we've played the songs so many times that I think we've all each individually parts a little more. But that's cool. That makes the live versions of the songs unique, as well. But yeah, when I listen back, I'm really proud of how it sounds and feels, and it's rad. Thank you to everyone at the Fuzz Club for featuring this album on this week's episode. We hope you all dig it, and we appreciate you so much.
Cool.
Well, that
It's,
makes more sense now.
What's that?
I got to say, that's a pretty serendipitous sort of album name that they picked there. Like, what are the chances?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. I had no idea what that meant. I tried looking it up a little bit beforehand, and I found, it was some sort of a plant in like the sunflower family or something. But yeah, it's very cool to hear the background on some of that stuff and how it all came together. So, any other thoughts now that we've had the video on any of that kind of stuff? It's worth talking about, Laura's vocals and stuff on it. I'm, him saying that she's never sang on anything before, and then hearing this band that had a different singer prior to this, and then hearing what she did on this album is one of the most interesting parts of it, I think, because she's got a great voice, and she's got different voices. I mean, there was a couple screams on this album, and there was the singing and stuff. Like, I was just really impressed by it, and then now to know that like this is all kind of new to her, I thought it was really cool.
It was the first thing that I noticed, like on the listen. Like the very first impression was like, not only is Laura singing, but she's selected really interesting and orally sexy harmonies. Like everything fit. I couldn't think of like more perfect vocal production for an entire album.
Yeah.
She has a very dynamic range.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And Eddie's guitar playing is something that I noticed, the more I listened to stuff and the drumming and everything like that. I mean, the first thing that hit me was the vocals, but the more and more I listened to it, it was like just hearing how great of musicians they all are, and then how they put it all together on this album, I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, his guitar playing blew me away on this one. Like it always did on all the albums. And just the tones he has is awesome. And it's the same thing when you hear him play live. It sounds just like that, and he can pull off everything that he does on the album live too. It's wicked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I really like the sound of the album, especially the guitar tones, and with the singing melody and the melody of the riffs. It kind of had like an 80s vibe, almost like wino inspired stuff to me, which was awesome. But yeah, the guitar tones were, I thought, tasteful. It was still like super heavy and doomy, but it wasn't like in your face, just like rip your face off fuzz. Super tasteful. And even like the proggy parts, there were some weird, like you guys had mentioned, it's kind of a record that keeps on giving the more you listen to it. But it's like subtle stuff, and it's very tasteful. It's not like an in your face like Yes or anything super ridiculous. So to me, what really stuck out about the record was how tasteful it was. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And to mention from the video of him explaining things and realizing that was her first go at like vocals in that manner, the real expression, sorry, that's what I meant to say. What I really found out of this album was I really found her vocals expressive, and it left an impression. And to now know that there was kind of this first go at it, it felt like there was a lot to be said within her melodies and that range that was happening. So that actually adds a little interest that I didn't expect out of it. So yeah, it was very expressive and dynamic.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm still like stuck on a little bit, is that it's her first go at it. Like, especially when you get into like the screams and the more harsh kind of vocals. I think that's like really what proves like the dynamic range kind of part of that.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about them as a band, and this album maybe in particular, is that they do so many different things, but it never feels like not cohesive. It felt like a very cohesive album. I mean, it all had the same tone to it, and you know that it's them. You know you're listening to the same album, but like I think the second track, Shadows, is kind of like a more bluesy part to it, and then like Toxic Annihilator got pretty heavy, and then the last couple tracks are a little bit more psychedelic or experimental or something. But you never go like, oh, this is like that track that they do this on, and this is the other one that they go over there with. It's like it's a very cohesive album. It's like a, it's just one of those albums you kind of like dive into and walk around in or something.
The weed was just kicking in when Arise started, and immediately I got couch locked. Like the combination of the two, I'm like, fuck, man.
I was gonna say Blake and I listened to it when we were down in Ripplefest because Eddy was nice enough to give us vinyl, and I'll show that here in a minute too because it's worth looking at. But we should have done like a reaction video or something to it because like, you know, we were quite a few drinks deep and we had been smoking and whatnot, and we're sitting there on the couch listening to this record. And every once in a while, we just look at each other and be like, "What the fuck, man? This is awesome. This is incredible." And it would have been cool to have like a reaction video on this one. I think maybe that's something we'll have to do in the Fuzz Club in the future.
Yeah.
My what the fuck moments were like initially the screams that she did. I wasn't expecting them, and I was like, "Holy fuck, man! She can really belt."
Yeah, it sounds great. It's
like
badass.
I was listening to the album before work this morning, and when Toxic Annihilator came on, I was like,
"Yep,
whoa, holy fuck!" And then from on, I dig the second half of the album a lot, at least like first and second listen.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tomorrow Skies. What became one of my favorite songs in there. For some reason, I go to the last song on a lot of albums that I listened to lately, and like they stick out to me as like being like a well-rounded songs of the whole of what the band does. And this one is the same way for me. Like this got everything on there.
I feel like the last track, like closing tracks on albums, are often like the longer, kind of weirder, maybe more experimental. Yeah, and it makes sense that those are often your favorite tracks. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I've been a fan for a couple of years of Hippie Death Cult, and like I was really curious to hear what this one would sound like with Laura singing, and I was like blown away. This is awesome, man.
Yeah,
and she also sings just like this live too.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. They're all really good live too. I mean, you know, they kill it. It's a great band. So maybe we should go into some of the gear talk and stuff like that. They talked a little bit about the recording and trying to keep it as analog as possible and whatnot. And Ben, you brought some of that up a little bit in like just kind of the tone of the album and stuff. And maybe we can get into that a little bit. I'll play the video first, and then we'll see, what else we have to add after that and see how it goes.
Gear wise, we didn't get too crazy off the beaten path of what we use live. For me, it's usually Gibsons and Marshalls, my SG that I use, I have a 1976 SG that you see me playing live all the time, and that's all over the record, as well as a 1982 Gibson Les Paul, and surprisingly enough, I used a Fender Stratocaster quite a bit on this record also. Amp-wise, it's a 1982 Marshall GSM 800. I also used a Supro Black Magic quite a bit on this album. Gear-wise for Laura, she's got her standard setup that she always uses, which is her Nash bass going through an Ampeg SVT. I believe it's from the 90s. She used a lot of fuzz wah on this, which was really cool. You'll hear it, and actually a lot of like under some of the solo sections, she's kind of going nuts on the fuzz wah, and I thought that was a cool like Cliff Burton kind of touch that she added to a lot of the songs. But aside from that, it's pretty meat and potatoes on the bass. And then as far as the drums go, Harry's got a 70s Ludwig kit that every nut and bolt on it is from the 70s, so it sounds very authentically like old school. And even as far as capturing and mixing the sounds, we didn't want to alter them to sound like most modern recordings sound. We wanted it to sound like how they actually sound.
Oh, wow.
That was a odd way to end that video. I don't know if he was aware of that or not, but that was the end of that video.
Did he make it?
Should check on him.
Yeah. All right. Well, thoughts on the sound. Again, there's some really interesting stuff in there. I mean, from the drum kit to the amps and stuff like that. And I say this every time. It's all stuff that's over my head a little bit. But you guys are musicians. What did you make of all that?
It's good to hear a musician's process. Everybody's got their own little things that they do in order to be able to kind of present the sound that's in their head. I can definitely hear a lot of them putting kind of vintage things in there and taking more of an old school approach. I mean, you really can't hear wood and wire and whatnot, but you definitely can hear like they had a good producer. I really do think that. But I like the gear rundown too, and no surprise that Laura using a really simple bass rig, and it's very rich. Drums too. I'm not a drummer, but I can definitely appreciate when a drummer's got like a really good sounding kit, and I mean, definitely heard it. My thoughts.
Yeah. How much does equipment like that really make a difference to some of you guys? I mean, like, does a 70s drum kit sound different than a 2000s drum kit? I mean, I bought some really cheap, shitty drums for my 4-year-old, and I mean, they sound like shit. So I suppose that's
I'm not a drummer either, but I've watched a few videos, and I know that the vintage stuff, interestingly, has like lighter weight hardware on it, so that the metal's thinner. And oftentimes the shells will be a different width. Like nowadays, things are more robust. And back in the 70s, they used to use a lot thicker skins. Like you get that kind of pigskin sound. Like if you think of like Ringo Starr, the typical 70s drum sound is very kind of dead and woody sounding.
In the chair.
Right. And which I really dig. That's the sound I like. Though that being said, I mean, John Bonham played a kit that was wide open and boomy. So but yeah, a Ludwig kit is just going to be like a high quality kit, but it'll sound different than a modern kit. If you'd have to A/B them to really hear the different timbres, but I like the sound of the drums a lot in this album. But they're good.
Yeah, Harry's an amazing drummer. They broke out into a drum solo for, I think it was Rat Salad, the Black Sabbath cover.
Oh, nice.
And he just went on for like 15 minutes. It seemed like just killing the drum solo. It was insane.
That's wicked.
And even the guitar effects on this album, like it's all like really like trippy and psychedelic in parts. Like that's all. I think it's all guitar, just all guitar pedals. I doubt it's any like plugins or anything like that. So he can produce stuff.
The guitars that he showed there, the Les Paul, the SG, and the Strat, they're all super standard guitars. He's got like nice versions of them. They're sought after. Those guitars he's got like 10 years ago would have been a third of the price that they are today. Things have gone crazy. And like that JCM 800 amp that he's got, for example, like 10 years ago, you could get them for like $1,000 or something. And now they're like $3,500 just for the head. Like, so they're sought after. They got great sound. There's a reason why like all of the classic players use them, right? They sound great, like plugging straight into them if you want to.
I got my JCM 800 in 1999 for $500 out of the penny pincher, local like rag sheet. Everything was for sale, before Craigslist.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's how old I am.
I'm the same. I remember when the Electric Wizard pedal, the Boss Fuzz 2 or whatever, was like $50. And they've gone for like $700 on reverb and stuff. So,
holy shit.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
All right. Anything else on like the gear and stuff? I'll bust out the vinyl here in a second. We'll talk about like some of the artwork and stuff. If not,
I happen to see that my dude here was represented, a Blackhawk amp. So I saw one of his pedals on the board when they were zooming right in front of the cab. Got to give Brooks a shout. Like, dude made me an excellent amplifier, and I will stand on a water tower and shout his virtues.
Where's he from?
Portland, I believe.
Okay.
He's him and another guy that are kind of like the Oregon gear lords, and they definitely like kind of cater to everybody. Maybe if you're into doom, I mean, you've got to heard of Fuzz Lord or Blackhawk if you're a musician. Both good companies. I don't know if Fuzz Lord's doing anything, but Brooks is definitely kind of spreading it out and putting out a lot of different kinds of pedals. Recommend checking the guy out.
They're from Portland, right? Hippie Death Cult?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought so, yeah.
I think Matt Pike's from there too, isn't he?
He lives there now.
Lives there now, yeah. Been there once.
All right.
Place.
The album art I thought was amazing too. I'll bring it up here in a second. It's by a dude named Greg Traw. But the vinyl, not only the cover looks rad, but the inside is just like packed with awesome shit too. And they're
Nice.
It's really interesting. You can stare at it while you listen to this record. You could probably stare at it the entire time. There's like photos of the band. There's weird shit. There's psychedelic shit everywhere. It's very cool. So thanks to Hippie Death Cult for hooking me up with that. And everyone should go, buy a copy themselves. But let me bring up the artwork here too. It's pretty cool. It's different. I mean, we talk about art all the time on here and stuff, and there's always kind of like an aesthetic to the doom and stoner artwork, and this one has it. You see the skull right away, but then the more you look at it, like the more interesting it really gets. And the inside of the vinyl too, I can't say enough about it, but this stuff just has like the flowers, and it's bright, it's colorful, but it's also like got this darkness to it with the skull and the snakes and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the album itself. It's like there's definitely this doominess to it, but you keep discovering more and more as you listen to the record, and there's plenty of other stuff to uncover about it rather than just like heaviness. There's a lot of like beauty to it also at the same time. So I felt like the art choice was really cool. Again, Greg Traw is the artist, and shout out to him because it's pretty rad.
There's a little satellite dish hidden in the bottom there. Did you see that?
A satellite dish?
Yeah, there's like all these animals and snakes and kind of freaky things, and then a satellite dish. I wonder what that represents.
Yeah, I don't know. I see some like UFOs up there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was going to ask. Are those supposed to be UFOs?
Maybe it's UFO.
So.
It's definitely one of those pieces you can, like you said, just sit there and stare at for an hour or so and see just a bunch of cool shit.
Yeah. So grab the vinyl, check out the inside too. It's cool, and even the back. It's got like kind of like this retro photo of the band and stuff. It's very cool. So
nice.
Anyway, shout out to them on that. I love when bands do it right with the artwork and everything's cohesive and everything. So
that's pretty cool.
All right. Anything else about the tracks themselves or anything? Any favorites? Anything like that?
Well, my favorites were definitely that Toxic Annihilator and Better Days. There was something about Better Days that I seem to have attached to. I don't know if it was some sort of like, maybe she was fully estrogen wise that day, and I'm pulling in on a cycle with her with it, but that's just me. So you guys might not feel that. It's okay if you don't.
No, I definitely felt that also. I definitely connected to her on our cycles. Yeah.
We all share our cycle.
Stop it.
Anywho, and then I had to look up on track 6 there what the word meant, because I felt like you said, the name of the album had a reasoning behind it that's an actual flower, a healing purpose. So I'm not even going to try to say it.
Nephilibata.
Nephilibata. Yeah, I need more drinks to say that. Anywho, it's a Portuguese word that literally translates to cloud walker. To be Nephilibata means to think and live, and outside the preconceived boxes, to be true to your heart and follow your own path. So I found that kind of super cool too, because that's a little touchy-feely right up in there with like a cool word though.
Yeah, I mean, Cloud Walker is a pretty rad song title also, but definitely cool
really
with that one.
I think back on the topic of what the fuck moments, again, that Toxic Annihilator song, I think I kind of had this idea in my head of what the album was going to be like. And then, and I agree with Randy also. Better Days, I think initially that was kind of like my favorite song. It's got a good groove to it. The riff was nice. But there's something about the solo and Toxic Annihilator that kind of just like threw me for a spin, because it was just like something, I don't know, pulled right out of like a thrash metal album,
Yeah.
It kind of like really shocked me there for a second.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that stood out to me today when I was listening to it. I mean, there's so much to unpack on some of these tracks, but Toxic Annihilator was just like this, like kind of straightforward, like awesome track. So do love that one. Shadows was cool too. Like I said earlier, it's got kind of like this bluesy part to it that I thought was pretty cool. And and that you think that they could work on, or that you'd like to see from them. It's obviously a big different change for them, this album with Laura on vocals and everything. What would you like to see from them next in the future, or something that felt like a misstep or a missed opportunity or anything on this album for anybody?
Wish it could be a little longer.
I'm trying.
I mean, I don't feel like it was short. It was just I kind of wanted more. You know, like
Yeah.
it was so fucking good.
Yeah.
They should come to
Yeah.
Toronto so we can play with them.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
then Edmonton.
Well, they.
Yeah.
I know that they are one of the hardest working bands right now out there. They are always on tour. They're always playing shows. I've kind of stayed in contact with them for the last couple of years, trying to get them on the podcast and do a Reeler Fuzzed or something with them, and it's tough. They're always playing. They're always out somewhere. They're always on tour, and I think they're going to Europe here pretty soon. And even to get them to give us a video and stuff was hard because they were wrapping up a tour, and as soon as we got it, they're going back out. So
Wow.
they're always playing a show. I'm surprised they haven't been up there anytime recently already, but I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will be there.
Man, I'd love to open for them. That'd be so fucking fun.
Right?
Oh my god. I mean, they played a little room here in Phoenix, and they had that place shook up worse than a beer in the back of a truck.
Yeah, I heard they're pretty killer live.
Yeah, they played
Yeah.
Toronto earlier this year. I ran door for the show, and even just like being inconvenienced by sitting off to the side, like it was still a hell of a show.
Where did they play in Toronto?
It was at Hard Luck. They played with Sasquatch in Low Orbit.
Oh yeah, that was last year, wasn't it?
I think it was earlier this. I could be wrong, but I think it was earlier this year. Yeah, last summer actually. Yeah.
Or, yeah, I think yeah. I
They
wanna
did
get-
That tour came to Chicago, them and Sasquatch. They came to Chicago, and I had tickets for it. And I've told them this too, and I've probably told it a few times, but I missed the show. It was it was one of those days that me and a buddy were preoccupied with drinking and whatever, and we didn't quite make it to the show. But I did get to see both Sasquatch and Hippie Death Cult at Rebel Fest, fortunately, and made up for it. But
So in Chicago, you didn't make it because you drank too much, but you made it with Blake in Texas. That seems interesting. I would have thought it might have happened the opposite way.
well, Blake was driving in Texas. I didn't really have much responsibility there. I just kind of was along the ride.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I want more pictures of Croatia. That's what I want. I want to see it now. It's on my travel list.
Yeah.
It's another stop.
Yeah, I think overall it's just it's a really solid album. Like Kris had said, I wasn't really I hadn't heard too much of them before this. This is definitely the first one that I've really sat down and kind of fully digested, but it's solid. I'll definitely feel comfortable saying it's going to be on my top 10 this month.
Yeah. I think the stuff prior to this, I had checked out and I had known them for a while, but like I think even their last album, like a couple years ago, was short, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 4 tracks or something? I don't quite remember.
Yeah, it was
but-
only 5. I was trying
Yeah.
to look it up before we jumped on here, and yeah, only like 4 or 5 tracks.
Yeah, and
That
it's cool to hear them say they're really happy about this phase of their their band and everything, and I think it shows. And I'm more excited to check out more of them now and going forward. I think that they made like the best album they possibly could with this one, and that's not to say anything against their older stuff. I think they've always been a solid band, but I think they're in a really good spot right now, and it's exciting to see where they're going.
Yeah, like you were saying, like this album seems a bit more cohesive and together as one compared to the last couple albums.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're still awesome, but this one's pretty wicked.
Yeah. All right. If there's not any other
Continuity of the
final
whole
thoughts,
thing.
we'll
Sorry.
let everybody go around and plug what they're up to and tell everybody what to check out. If you want to lead us off, Aawks.
Boys.
Okay, we're finishing up. I guess by the time this comes out, the full like kind of plug will have been out, so I can say it now. But yeah, our EP will be coming out this fall, which we're excited about, and be a bunch of cool stuff associated with that, some new merch and stuff. And then we're finishing up writing the second album. It's almost completely written. Got a bunch of shows coming up. I think we are playing Hamilton. Well, just check our socials, but we're playing Hamilton and Toronto before the end of the year. And then we got a whole bunch of stuff lined up for 2024.
And Barry.
Oh, and Barry, yeah. November 11th. We're playing, when's this coming out?
October
2
20th.
weeks.
So November 11th, come down to the Queen's Hotel and see us play for the Tarantula Tapes 3rd anniversary party with a bunch of great bands.
Awesome. Ryan.
Well, I guess some of my stuff mirrors what Aawks is saying there, considering they're on the label. We also have the, I guess, the debut record coming out for Occult Witches about mid-December. That should be coming out for their recent release, Mastermind, that was released back in July. And then we just had like the 3 really, really good releases from September. The Earth Altar Sumbolo split, the Novadol one, and Ethereal Tomb. So yeah, check those out.
Awesome.
And you signed Cannabis.
Yeah, we just signed Cannabis as well from Welland,
I saw that,
Ontario.
yeah.
Great band.
Yeah, they're a good group of guys.
Eddy?
The Endless is still working out some details to release the new album that we just recorded. It's probably going to be released early February. And the other 2 bands were working on material for the next album that's coming out.
Right on. Ben?
Well, Lost Dutchman, we're wrapping up getting the last of our next EP recorded. Don't have a release time scheduled yet. I kind of want to hold off until like April 20th, just because, we're a stoner metal band and, want to keep with like stoner St. Patty's Day and whatnot. And then we're going to be playing a little bit of a fest at the end of the month, October 29th here in Phoenix. If you happen to be around, come to Kate's Bar. It'll be an all-day thing going on. About it.
Cool. All right, everybody, go check out Hippie Death Cult, Heavy Psych Sounds. Go grab some vinyl. See you on the next one.
Woo!
Later.
See ya.